Cascade Hoops Talk, Billy D. Join us on Twitter, Cascade Hoop Talk. Hey, everybody stay safe, stay inside, and listen to Cascade Hoops Talk. Hey, today we're happy to welcome Jeff Beckman, all-conference player for Spring Arbor University. A highly efficient player. Jeff played all 4 years of his career at Spring Arbor, scored over 1,000 points, pulled down almost 1,000 rebounds, averaged 7 rebounds per game during his career, and he provided critical power on the glass for the Cougars. Not only is he the 7th player in SAU history to reach 900 boards, but he's only one of only 5 players in Spring Arbor history to score 1,000 points and record 900 rebounds. Welcome, Jeff. You should be very proud of what you accomplished at Spring Arbor.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show today, Bill.
Hey, Jeff, you went to Shelby High School. You grew up in Shelby, Michigan. Shelby High School had a great high school program, and I know particularly your junior year, but, talk about your teams at Shelby and, what it meant to you to be part of that program.
Yeah, so Shelby is a really special place, and basketball-wise, Coach Rick Zulik has been there for almost 35 years, I believe now, and he was just an incredible mentor to me. The really fun part was my freshman and sophomore year, I got to play with my older brother, Andrew, and my cousin, Jason, as well as my cousin, Danny, and the 4 of us are incredibly close friends. So my freshman and sophomore year, we lose at the buzzer in the regional finals. And then my junior year is kind of when we broke through. We just had a really special group. We went 19-1 in the regular season. We had 4 first quarters where the other team didn't score. So just our press was a lot of fun. It was a blast being able to play with some of your closest friends. Just being in a community that loves basketball, those Friday night games, those conference games, they were just incredible memories that I'll never forget.
Hey, that's pretty cool. You were able to play with your brother and your cousins. How special was that?
It's something I'll never forget. I can remember so many games where I would just set screens and get out of the way and let my cousin Jason go to work. I think my brother and I had this system where he would crash the offensive glass on one side and I'd crash on the other. And we probably had multiple times a season where he would call my name as he's going up for the rebound and he'd tip it over to me and then I'd tip it in. And just that specialness. And then my senior year playing with my cousin Danny, he's a point guard that plays at Hope College now. And I could get rebounds and just fire them to half court, and I knew exactly where they were going to be. We've been best friends since we were 2 or 3 years old, and that was I get chills thinking about how fun that was.
So this is probably a dumb question because I'm sure it's an obvious answer, but how much closer were you and your brother and even your cousins having played ball together, not just growing up together?
We are just I can't even describe it, honestly. The group chats that we still have going on, the 2-on-2 games that we have over Christmas break, they're just, and that bond that got created playing together. We can talk about hoops or anything else for hours on end, and it's just the 4 of us have a really special relationship, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh, that's a pretty cool story. You finish up at Shelby. Now where you're going to go to college. So, what went into the decision to go to Spring Arbor?
The funny thing about Spring Arbor is I was being recruited by Indiana Wesleyan. In my junior year of high school, I go to Spring Arbor and I turn to my mom and I say, I never want to play in this. I called it an airplane hangar. I'm ashamed to say that now. And then I hope that I'll get a little grace because I was 16 years old when I made that comment. But just as I matured and went farther in high school, other Crossroads League teams, Grace and Taylor and Indiana Wesleyan all stopped recruiting me. And I realized how much more important the people were rather than the facilities. And that's when I developed a relationship with Coach Brandon Baum and Ryan Cottingham. in the recruitment process. Isaac Love was a local. He went to high school near me, so I'd known him, and he was on the team. And so I just found out how quality the people were at Spring Arbor, and it made my choice so clear to end up going there. I signed in the fall of my senior year before the year even started, just being very confident getting to go to Spring Arbor.
Oh, that's a cool story. So now you get to Spring Arbor. Your junior season was a dream season. Very few players who play college basketball. Number one, very few people get to play college basketball, but then get to play college basketball to have a dream season, win a national championship. Talk about your junior season at Spring Arbor.
Yeah, Bill, I don't know where to start in the year. We obviously preseason is long and grueling. We just have workouts and early morning conditioning. But I guess I should start in August. We came in for a team retreat, and we stayed in this house on campus. And in the middle of the night, there was no AC. We had the windows open, and a bat flies into the house. And we are all up in the middle of the night throwing shoes, trying to get this bat out of the house. And just the bond, even then, that we could all feel of how close knit that we were going forward. And then when the season started, I don't think we realized how cohesive we were. I think we won 5 or 6 really close games, and about halfway through the season, we start to realize how just how special that this team is. And then going into the tournament, we were very confident going in, just having played such a grueling schedule. And then we beat Indiana Tech by 35 points, and we're thinking, wow, we can really do this. And then the Jamestown game in the second round, I think, was our toughest opponent outside of Oregon Tech in that tournament run. They played very well. And again, I don't think we realized how special it was until we were actually in the national championship, realizing how far we'd come.
When I talked to Paul, he mentioned something that I didn't realize. You guys defeated Marion that year 3 times, and the third time was in the Final Four. That Marion team was probably one of the top 2-3 teams in the country.
They were the most talented team I think I've ever played against. Sitting in our hotel room the night before, Paul and I were roommates, and Paul just looked at me and said, "Jeff, we can't lose to these guys." That's how he always calls other team these guys. And we just said we felt an immense amount of pressure going into that game. Just the whole kind of basketball curse, you can't beat a team 3 times. And then we played, I believe, our best defensive game of the year in that game. And I think the better defense we played in that game, the better our offense felt as well. And so we kept building on ourselves as that game went on.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because you held them to 50 points. They only shot 38%. And again, I mean, this is a team that had T.J. Henderson and Wes Stowers. I mean, yeah, and you held them to 50 points.
T.J. Henderson played really, really well in the first half, and Luke Barber was on him, I believe, and he was just working extremely hard, but T.J. was really feeling it. And the great thing about that group is we never lost confidence. Luke never lost confidence, and he kept working extremely hard. And then Coach Cottingham's defensive system, to be able to hard hedge on Wes Stowers that game, no matter where he was, I believe was really key. Coach did a great job of breaking them down offensively so that we knew exactly what we were doing defensively.
So what do you mean by hard hedge?
So typically defending that middle ball screen, the big is gonna drop because Reggie Kasulal is such a threat to roll. But instead, we sent a help defender over that game, and we're able to get out and almost double team Wes, in order to better defend that. And that adjustment by coach just changed everything.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's interesting. So, we're talking about defense. So who was the hardest guy in the Crossroads League in your career to guard?
It's no question. It was Bryce Linehoop, the starting center for St. Francis, I played against him for 2 years. I believe he finished with over 2,000 points and over 1,000 rebounds. And you wouldn't think it when you looked at him, but his footwork, his ability to pass and seal, he often had me beat before he even took a dribble in the low post. And he was a load. I have never worked so hard to try to stop somebody than I did when I guarded Bryce.
He was extremely deceptive because if you watch him, he just didn't look that intimidating, but it was just impossible to stop.
That's a perfect way to describe him, was deceptive. He just, and I think his arms were way longer than people think they are. I think he physically had a leg up, which he didn't look like it, but he was his shot was impossible to block.
Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, I got the opportunity to see him play several times. Once at the tournament in Branson. Yeah, he's a very good ball player. You get through, you defeat Oregon Tech, and everybody knows that's a team near and dear to my heart. But you won it fair and square. But you win that buzzer goes off, and you realize you're national champions. Talk about that moment.
When that buzzer went off, I just sprinted. I sprinted towards the bench, and as people are running out, I just sprinted through the crowd. And my coach Cottingham told me later I was trying to be like Jimmy V after NC State won it. But I can totally relate to Valvano in that moment because I didn't know what I was doing. I thought the best thing to do was to run. And I think I ran in a big circle, not really knowing where I was going. Eventually found some of my teammates, and then you really realize, and the emotion starts to hit you of what just happened. And being able to just embrace teammates, lay on top of Brandon Darnell in the middle of the court, pounding his chest. And it was just a special moment that when you get to share it with teammates becomes even more special.
Yeah, a Jimmy V moment.
Yeah, yes. It's really incredible.
You and I talked about this a little bit, but, I mentioned your 1,000-point man, almost we'll call you 1,000 rebounds. You got real close. Talk about your role in that Spring Arbor offense because, you played with some guys that were, I mean, Brandon Darnell and Paul Marindet, Luke Barber, DeWilt. What was your role in that offense?
Bill, I felt like my role almost changed year to year. So my sophomore year, that's the first year I played extended minutes. I played with a guy by the name of Zach Maidendorp, who averaged, I believe, 14 or 15 a game, really talented in the low block. Obviously playing with Paul. I felt like I was spoon-fed by Paul my entire career. So my sophomore year, just catching layups and finishing because Paul would draw so much attention. Then obviously junior year, we had that incredible squad, and that mid-range jumper just became available. I like to think of myself as Horace Grant playing alongside those talented Chicago Bulls rosters, just sliding into the 15-foot area because Tom Hamilton and Luke Barber shot over 40% from the three-point line that year. Peyton DeWilt, obviously a very talented slasher. And then Brandon really came into his own his sophomore year, that national championship year. And I just had to get out of his way at sometimes because he was going to take the ball to the hole and find me if my guy doubled. And then obviously Paul, like I said, spoon feeding me easy buckets my entire career. So I just always felt like a compliment because I always played with so much talent.
Paul could really control the pace of a game, and he was so strong that he can penetrate and post up. What do you think he's got a lot of different talents. What do you think made him so special?
I think for one, like you said, his control, and that was not only over pace, but he could control defenders. And so if you watch that Oklahoma Wesleyan game, the threes that I took in the second half, Paul, a lesser point guard would have given me those passes earlier. But Paul takes an extra dribble. He'll throw a pass fake, and he knows how to throw pass fakes in to make your defender take another step away to give you more space. And so not only does he find the right guy, but he actually creates 3 or 4 more feet for that guy to get his shot off. And that's why Paul has the assist record at Spring Arbor, because guys shoot such a high percentage off of his passes.
Brandon Durnell, he's just a load.
He is a load. Brandon's one of my closest friends, and we go to battle and practice a lot, and I don't even know how to, I guess, uncanny. His ability to find the rim with his eyes and throw it up there with a soft touch with that right hand. It's just, he wows me every day I watch him play.
Who is the hardest guy in the league for you to score on?
To score on? I was never a fan of Taylor's front line, CJ Pena, and Luke Hubbard. They to me were a great mix of length and strength and speed, and I never enjoyed going against them, either of them, when we played them.
So when you say you weren't a fan, it means you're not talking bad about them. You're just saying they were tough for you to play against.
They made my offensive day much more difficult than I would have liked it to be. They're very good defenders.
Now let's talk about you. You were an amazing shooter. You shot over 57% for your career. What do you attribute that to?
I would attribute that, one, to, like I said, the talent that I played with. No team ever game planned for me, because they had to game plan for 3 other guys. And I would also attribute it to my dad growing up always said, take shots when you know you can make them, and don't base your game on hope. And I just really tried to live by that. And then Coach Cottingham just gave me a ton of confidence in what I was good at. So he always encouraged me to shoot the mid-range jumper, to take one dribble in the post and score. So he really just encouraged me to play to my strengths. And I think I did that fairly well, and that's why my percentage is what it is.
So this year you added another weapon to your arsenal. You shot over 40% from 3, but you only made 10 of them. Why didn't you shoot more? You were shooting so well this year.
So I really didn't start shooting the 3 until late in the season. Bill, I really don't know. I think that coming into the year, I was confident with my mid-range shot, and the previous year I had taken so many of those. And then as the year progressed and we were trying to find our niche offensively, I realized that mid-range shot wasn't there anymore, just the way our offense was. And so I stepped back and just tried to work on those more rather than the mid-range, and just tried to shoot them with confidence. But I think you're right. I should have shot a few more rather than my mid-range this past year.
So Jeff, what is it meant to you to be a part of that, to be a Spring Arbor Cougar, to be a part of that program?
Bill, Spring Arbor it's a special place. And I say that just because it's so near to my heart, what Spring Arbor stands for and what Coach Cottingham and Coach Baum and Coach Jim Brown stand for. But I would say it means 3 things. I'll expand it to 3. One is family. I have 30 plus brothers now who I got to go through those seasons with, that I will have their back and they will have my back for life. And the second is working through trials. So obviously in a basketball season, not everything goes well. And Coach Cottingham has taught us to work through those with our head up, and just continue to work hard and not worry about outcome. And finally, my relationship with Jesus Christ has grown immensely because of the Spring Arbor program, because of the Bible studies that Coach Jim Brown has run through my years, the mentorship, the teammates pouring into me, from Isaac Love being a senior my freshman year to Josh Lehman this year being a freshman pouring into me as a senior. That has just been an incredible plus to being able to play basketball at the college level.
But you're really lucky to have had that experience. That'll stay with you forever.
It will. And I've even just being 3 weeks removed from my career, I feel incredibly thankful towards Spring Arbor and that program for everything that I've learned during my time there.
Yeah, you talked about basketball seasons being a challenge, and they are. I mean, you and I could probably talk all day about, I think I think in games it's, who can shorten up the runs that come against you, and how do you lengthen your runs? And in a season, it's, how do you shorten up those bad spurts, and how do you lengthen out the good spurts? I mean, it's all about dealing with those ups and downs. But this year had to be particularly frustrating. You couldn't get on a winning streak of more than 3 in a row, and you guys had more close games and overtime games, I think, than almost anybody in the country. Do some of those games still haunt you, Jeff?
Not so much this year. The St. Francis game at St. Francis this year, I felt like we had a handle on them, and we let that one get away. And then the Bethel game, I guess, yeah, talking this year, the Bethel game this year really haunted me, but I think I got over it because we learned from our mistake late in that game, ended up beating them at their home court in a similar situation. Travion Cruz had the ball with less than 5 seconds left. And the first time we didn't double team him, we knew we should have. And the second time we did, and we ended up winning that game. So I think I'm getting over it just because we got them back on their home court.
Especially early in the season. I mean, he did that to so many teams.
Uh-huh.
You talked about coming back, and then, to kind of redeem yourselves against Bethel, you had to go to Bethel because you lost at home.
We did, yes.
But you had that rematch with Bethel. It went to overtime. You pulled down 18 rebounds, which in a defensive struggle, Jeff, I thought that was a huge part of that win. Just talk about that game at Bethel and how good that felt.
Yeah, that game was I remember a ton from that game, just it being so close. We were actually up 14, I believe, at one point in that game. We felt we were playing really well during that stretch. And like you said, I rebounded it pretty well. That was actually, I did not feel well that game. That was kind of when everybody was getting sick. And our sophomore big, Tyler Kaminsky, came in and provided us really with some good minutes that allowed me to get a rest. And I think that helped my rebounding margin. But then that game, just Luke Barber hitting 5 threes was incredible. And we all built off of his hot shooting, and that was a ton of fun. And then going back to Travion at the end, I will never forget Luke. I think Luke hit a 3, and then they have the ball late, and I'm running to double Travion. Luke Barber is guarding him, and then I hear Brandon behind me yelling, "Go, go, go!" And I think we ended up triple teaming him just out of respect for his ability to hit those last second shots.
Yeah, he has an incredible talent and he's going to terrorize the Crossroads one more year. He's got an incredible talent at the end of the game. Kind of like you don't want Mangus to have the ball at the end of the game. I mean, Travion Cruz is kind of the same way.
Right.
Speaking of Mangus, Indiana Wesleyan, you got to the tournament. You ended up losing to Indiana Wesleyan and then it was a very, very good team. When that game ended, did you feel that you guys had done enough to get back to Sioux Falls?
I think in the back of our minds we did, but we were very knowing that the Crossroads League is that good. I think in the back of our minds we were pretty confident. However, that worry can just overtake you sometimes about whether you're getting there or not. But we came into the second round of the Crossroads League regular season, so we came back to play everybody again, so 9 more games, and we were fairly confident that if we went 6-3 in that stretch, that we would have done enough to get into the tournament. And then beating St. Francis in the first round of the league tournament, I think we were fairly confident. But again, that worry just always haunts you a little bit until you see your name up on the screen.
Yeah, I think the 2 biggest games for you were that Bethel game we talked about, and especially since you did it on the road. And then I think you absolutely had to beat St. Francis on the road, which you did. I think they were ranked 16th in the nation at the time. So I think those were the 2 most important games to getting back to the tournament. So now you get to the tournament. Well, before we leave the Crossroads, We talked about playing at Bet. Where's the toughest place in the Crossroads to play?
That that is a good question. Just because Crossroads League teams have fluctuated so much while I've been there, I think I would say that St. Francis facility is the toughest place to play. Just they have a kind of a home court advantage because of their floor and how things are set up. But I would say that Indiana Wesleyan, their crowd on a Saturday afternoon is really tough to get going against.
What is it about? You mentioned St. Francis, their facility. What is it about it?
I really don't know because everything about their gym just feels normal, and then you never really feel like you can get into a rhythm at St. Francis. Just your body doesn't feel right for some reason. Obviously, not making excuses because I think I only won there once in my career, but it's just an odd facility that makes you second guess yourself a little bit in the back of your mind.
So now you're going to the national tournament. You get paired with Oklahoma Wesleyan. Obviously, you did a lot of game prep for them. How did you feel about the matchup going in?
We felt really good. Just watching a lot of film, we felt that individual matchups we were really confident with. Just the way they played their defense, we felt that we could get a lot of threes off. And having Luke Barber just be an incredible shooter, we felt like offensively we really had the leg up going into that matchup.
And the first half went well. You were up by 8 at half. You went up by 10 early in the second half. And then, Brooks Haddock, you got to take your hat off to him. I don't know how many threes he hit in that second half, but he got the game close. Defensively, what kind of changes did you make against Haddock as that second half went on?
Honestly, Bill, we couldn't. The way Brooks was playing that game, and like you said, hats off to him. He had an incredible second half, full game in that game. But the way he was scoring made it really difficult to adjust at all. I think he hit 4 or 5 mid-range jumpers where they were clearing out the entire side, and we were right up on him, and we had help waiting for him in the paint. But when a guy is hitting those type of shots, I don't believe you can do a whole lot to adjust for him other than running a straight-up double team at him, which at the level that Oklahoma Wesleyan and us are playing at, that's not feasible to do. So I just think he had such an incredible game hitting the shots that he did. We really couldn't do a whole lot defensively.
I thought, just being an observer, it looked like the first couple of threes he hit, he had some space. You guys switched around and started picking him up earlier and putting more pressure on him. But even contested, he just kept hitting shots. And then once the three was kind of gone, he started, shooting more mid-range, and he was still hitting.
Right. He was. You didn't think he was ever going to miss in that game. I don't think he missed more than 5 shots. And then I believe he was 100% at the free throw line too. So yeah. Just hats off to him.
Well, and despite that, what he was able to do was pull it even. And then you guys just, it was a Donnybrook, a barn burner, whatever terminology you want to use, right up to the end. Paul went to the line at the end. He missed a free throw. DeWilt got the ball, had, I thought, an excellent look at a three. Describe the moment when that three rolled off and you knew it was over.
I think, and just to back up, this is another thing about Paul Marindet. He didn't tell anybody he was going to miss that free throw because he was so confident that he could throw it off the front of the rim and it would come right back to him. So just the ingenious of Paul in that moment. But when that game actually ended, it was heartbreaking. It was very difficult just to swallow. And I think as time went on in the next hour or so, just realizing that my career was entirely over was the sad part rather than in that exact moment.
So Jeff, I know your dad's huge fan of yours. Who took that loss harder, you or your dad?
I think it was pretty equal. My dad is incredible, and he just wants to see our team succeed. He's fairly close with a lot of the guys, and he just wanted he's so confident in Spring Arbor basketball, and obviously being my dad, he wanted us to be right back in that national championship game. So I think he wanted to be able to see a couple more games is why he took it so hard. And obviously I didn't want my career to be over.
So your career, some guys' career ended with the virus, and your career ended on the floor, you and, several others. Was it better to have it end on the floor? Would you have rather it ended with the virus? What are your thoughts on that?
Bill, I think God gives us little blessings in the midst of everything that's hard about this life. And I think that that loss was one of those little blessings that God gives us, because I just working so hard for so long to pursue excellence in the game of basketball. I can't imagine. I feel so bad for those guys whose career ended with the virus, because there's so many what ifs. I'm so thankful that there's no longer any what ifs for me. My career's over. That part of my life was incredible, but I'm obviously very confident it's done. There's nothing else to look back on and think, what if?
Well, you had an amazing career at Spring Arbor. You set some records there. Like I read in your introduction, 1,000 points, 900 rebounds. You're only the fifth person in Spring Arbor history to do that. And you won Spring Arbor. Wasn't that Spring Arbor's first national championship as well, right?
It was, yes.
And nobody can take that from you. So what's after Spring Arbor for you?
Bill, I'm really hoping to get into the coaching world. I love basketball so much, and I believe it's a great vehicle to teach young men like myself for the last 4 years have learned the values of character and leadership and faith in Jesus Christ. I'm really excited to hopefully jump back into the world of basketball and get into the coaching world. I'm marrying my beautiful fiance in July, and so I'm really excited to start this next part of life, and very thankful for the last 4 years.
Oh, well, congratulations. Wow. And I hope you are able to pursue that. A lot of great coaches in the country, but people who are students of the game and are the right kind of people. It's great to see people like you enter that profession. So good luck to you with that. And you'll get in, and you'll be very successful at it.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Bill.
Jeff, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Really enjoyed talking to you, and again, congratulations on a great career, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, Bill, for being a reporter for the NAI. You make the brand of the NAI more known, and I think it's a great brand to talk about. So I appreciate what you do as well.
Oh, I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you.
All right. Take care, sir.